Hey guys, how are you? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a horror comedy from the USA, English language, released in the year 2016, directed by Richard Bates Jr., and this film is called Trashfire. So Trashfire is about this man. He has a very troubled past. He believes that when he was younger he was responsible for a house fire that killed his parents and also horribly disfigured his sister. So since that fire he's never had any words with his sister, who's now being cared for by her grandmother, and so this is really playing a devastating effect on his current relationship with his girlfriend. So his girlfriend's always saying, he's so far disconnected from reality, he's always negative, he's alienating herself from her own family because he's so rude to them. She just believes that he's very negative and he just hates humanity, but the reasons obviously come from his traumatic past. So one day she actually tells him, look, I'm pregnant, but I'm going to abort the baby because I don't want our baby being raised by a father like you. And so he has a change of heart and he believes that this baby might change him as a person and he really wants to keep it. But ultimately she gives him an ultimatum saying, look, if you are prepared to say sorry to my family, that'll be a first step in actually getting them to like you, and you also have to go and visit your grandmother and your sister. So this is a very troubling experience for him, but he believes that this is what it takes to prove his love. So they end up going to the house, but this is where they realise that they're going to have a lot more difficulty in actually connecting with the grandmother and the sister than they first thought. So it's about to go down a very disturbing road that I'm not going to give away, so if you like the way that this movie sounds, please go out there and see it for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Trashfire. Coming into this film, I did have high expectations based on the fact that Richard Bates Jr. directed another horror film called Excision. Now Excision really hit the indie market, the indie horror circuit by storm. It was a movie that was very, very visual, very graphic, and it had a very deep, dark heart. And it was a movie that was very provocative. And so coming into Trashfire, I was hoping that it would have that same provocative nature. And boy, does this movie have a provocative nature. This is a movie that is a exercise in hatred against humanity. This is a movie that will not make you feel good. This is a nasty piece of work, and it was a piece of work that I really appreciated because it really understood a lot of elements that it was actually trying to take on. Now, my biggest negative of the film is that it is a little bit misleading as far as the marketing is concerned. I wouldn't necessarily say this is a straight-out horror film. It's more of a very, very deeply disturbing character study of a family trying to come to grips with a very traumatic past. And I think the movie works so well is because the script is so strong. And because the script is so strong, I believe that Trashfire is much more memorable than Excision was. So if you like Excision, chances are you're going to really like Trashfire because it's a very different film. It really does bank itself on the character studies. Now, what I liked about the character studies the most is that at the start of the film, it's got some very, very dark humour. This is a guy who basically abuses everyone he sees in a very subtle way. And so you think to yourself, this guy is the biggest jerk. What is this woman doing with him? What could she possibly see? And so that does disconnect yourself from reality to some extent, is because you feel that no sane person would be with this guy. But the beauty of the film is that this script allows this guy to transform into a character where you feel, okay, he's being an absolute prick because of his past. It's not condoning what he's doing, but it's giving you a reason, and that anyone who went through what he went through obviously would have a devastating effect. And so as the movie goes along and he starts to open up to his girlfriend a little bit more, you start to see that little bit of light within his character that actually makes you think, okay, well, I understand why she is actually with him, and that you actually hope by the end of the film that he can overcome his problems so that they can be together and they can live happily ever after. But the movie, it has that dark heart where it feels like it's just going to tear away all hope. It's giving you a little bit of hope, but then when you least expect it, it's going to tear everything away. So it's basically showing you the side of humanity that a lot of films don't want to show, is that a lot of people, when they watch movies, they want to see it happily ever after. But these really dark films do a great job at actually gaining a platform that's going to suggest that it's going to be happily ever after, but it's going to tear the rug from under you, and it's going to hit you with a very depressing sort of sledgehammer. And that's how the ending, the end of this film was absolutely phenomenal, and it really summed up that very, very dark heart that the movie has. As I said, it's a very nasty film, but it's a film that actually makes you smile as well, is because it's a very dark sort of humour. And I actually believe that pitch black comedy is as hard to do as deadpan humour. As I said in my past reviews, deadpan humour is very reminiscent of Norwegian style of humour, where it's all about seriousness, but pitch black humour is making you laugh at things that are absolutely atrocious, that are absolutely terrible. And the script actually has that Quentin Tarantino-esque sort of feel to it, where not much can be happening, but you're glued to the screens because the exchanges are so good. And the exchanges, as I said, are very dark, and I found myself laughing quite considerably from start to finish. is because it makes you feel bad for actually doing this. So it just feels as though there is no real hope in this film, that everyone involved in this movie as far as the characters are concerned are absolutely terrible people, and you feel like a terrible person as well, is because you're laughing and you almost feel as though you're condoning what's going on. So the script is very smart, and it does allow you to really absorb yourself into the situation and feel what these characters are feeling as far as terrible people. So the movie doesn't rely on its gore. There are some pretty shocking scenes here and there, but it really relies, as I said, on that character study, and the character study is able to shine through because it is very, very competently written. So I thought the camera angles to this film were very quirky. It almost felt like you were actually talking to them face to face, in just the way that the camera panned to each person in their conversations. So it just feels like a much more personal sort of experience that you have with this movie, and I think the director really allows you to absorb yourself into this little nasty world that he has created. So the acting was absolutely fantastic, based on the fact that the script was so good. The script really is the centerpiece that is holding this whole film together. It goes for 90 odd minutes, and not a lot happens, but it's just the exchanges between these characters that make it so absorbing. And as I said, that is very reminiscent of the works of Quentin Tarantino. Obviously, it's not as well written as a Quentin Tarantino film, but it does have that power to keep you captured without much happening. So I thought the grandmother was absolutely fantastic in this film. I'm not going to give anything away, because the less you know about this, the better, but I will say that she does have a very disturbing level to her, as is the case with the sister. And just as I said, when you actually feel that everything's coming together, this is where, you know, things are really going to tear itself away from you. So as I said, the only problem I have with the movie is, as far as horror is concerned, it is a little bit misleading, but if you go into it with the right expectation, I think Trash Fire will really appeal to you. And so for that, I feel that this is a very memorable experience. It's a better experience than Excision. So if you like Excision, chances are you're going to really like this one. So overall, for Trash Fire, going to give it 4 stars. Go out there and see it. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.